Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Ethics Experts. Welcome to the show. Super glad you're here. And if you are a subscriber, so glad you made it. Welcome to the show. And see, that's what you get when you subscribe. You get an extra welcome, an extra nice welcome at the beginning of every show. So subscribe. Feel free to share this. Tell your friends about it. I am super excited to welcome to the show today Julio Briones. Hi, Julio. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks
I,
for having me on.
I'm great, man. I'm excited to be here. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, my name's Julio Briones, and I am the CEO and lead consultant with the Briones Consulting Group. And what we do is we are senior care business growth specialists
Mm-hmm.
that focus on growing and improving the private pay portion of senior care business.
Cool.
Um, we work with people on their marketing, business development, internal strategies, business valuations, and just plot it out. So it doesn't really matter if you're just starting out and trying to figure out what your goal is, or if you're already in business and you're just trying to ramp up for either sale, expansion, or something along those lines.
Awesome. Super interesting, man. And yeah, at Compliance Line, we do a bunch of business in that space in home care and senior nursing and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And I think that industry has really been pretty advanced and kind of ahead of the curve on quality. And we can get into it, start talking about star ratings and stuff later. But on quality and compliance and making sure that the right stuff is done. And I think that you can provide a cool perspective because you kind of have that full umbrella of like what do the leaders and the executives care about, which I think people in the ethics space are always trying to kind of get into that conversation and figure out how to kind of move forward into those discussions.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. So, talk to me a little bit about your career path, and kind of how you came to be where you are today. I think that's always an interesting place to start because we all have our own story, and you're making a cool impact on a bunch of care providers. But tell us how you got there.
Well, just to start off, I'm currently 44. I'm about to be 45, and that's important because of where my career started. It started way back in high school when I was 15 years old. I actually started working as a part-time recruiter for a home health Medicaid agency
Hmm.
that they were just always looking for people. My mother was an office manager for this company, and she was just like, "You need to get a job." So I was like, "All right." So I've been doing it off and on. My career took me a couple of different places in between. Took me off to the army. I went into retail clothing for a little bit, and then I ended up coming right back to this industry.
Hmm.
And total in the last 30 years, I've probably done about 20, 22 years at this point of senior care. My last 6 years working for someone else, I was building franchise, the systems
Okay.
for franchises.
Uh-huh.
All right, like what the processes are, what they should do, how to improve the individual offices, and between the franchising and private clients, I've opened probably about 38, 39. I'm working on right now,
Okay.
different offices in the home care and home health space.
Wow. That's really
Yeah,
interesting. And it's cool how you got that start so early on, and you've
yeah,
built a career in there. So
yeah,
thanks, Mom.
yeah. Let me tell you, I really appreciate it, and I absolutely, I'm one of those people that look forward to Monday and dread Fridays.
Oh, wow.
I
That's
absolutely
awesome.
love what I do. To me, this is, I love my family, love my kids, everything.
You
Actually,
have
this
to
is
say
one
that,
of
right,
the,
Julio?
yeah, no, I actually, a lot of times, like one of my kids or another is with me,
Okay, yeah.
so
Jump
like
in.
it, yeah, I'm sorry.
Jump in. Bring him on the cast.
Oh, yeah, no, they're not here
Okay.
today. But, but yeah, it's just one of those things. It's something about helping people and helping the people that help the one of the most vulnerable people in our society. I mean,
Hmm.
seniors and adults with developmental disabilities.
Hmm.
They really are the ones that are gonna either benefit or get hurt by what we do.
Yeah.
And I think that is just so incredibly important that they ultimately get the best of us, and in order, well, the best of our clients in our case, And in order for that to happen, our clients need to get the best of us.
Yeah. I love that point, right? There's this, I don't know, volatility or this way that things are magnified in this space where, in some other industries, it's just kind of average and normal, right? Like if you mess up, people are unhappy. In
Right.
this industry, if you mess up, someone gets really hurt, and it's someone
Oh,
who
yeah.
maybe can't advocate for themselves, and
Right.
can't, they don't have a lot of options. They can't drive across town and try to get some other
Right.
care somewhere else. So it makes it so much more important to have that high quality, make sure that people are acting ethically, make sure that you have a handle on the actions that are being taken. And I think that's part of what has driven me into compliance. I was telling you a little bit in our green room setup that I had background with a home health company, and I saw how strong they were on compliance and ethics, and how
Right.
that allowed them to provide great care and grow and build a good business and be successful and keep hitting their mission, a bigger and bigger mission. And
Right.
that's part of what brought me into it. Is it's interesting, we both have that background. Mine isn't as deep as yours, but just seeing the stark impact, positive or negative, on getting this thing right is really kind of front and center in home health.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Like, in my world, it comes down to, having those procedures and systems in place that everything's just it's gotta come off like clockwork.
Yep.
It doesn't matter if the owner's there. It doesn't matter if you hire somebody new or you have somebody who's been with you for the last 10 years. Everything just, it has to happen systematically.
Right.
Things, you have to have that order of operations. Caregiver gets hired, what happens next? How long do we put her in place? As from a business development perspective, where are we going? How are we looking? How are we going to prospect?
Yep.
Like to what you're mentioning, those star ratings, that is so incredibly important to have, that 5-star rating from Medicaid and Medicare.
Right.
From a facility perspective, it shows about how much they care about their end user, their client.
Mm-hmm.
From the perspective of what I teach and what with my clients, it shows that this is a facility that's high quality, and it makes it, from one end of it, a valuable facility to refer to make you look good with your own clients.
Right.
And from a referral perspective, I deal in private pay mostly.
Okay.
So from a private pay perspective, most people are not going to shell out the money to go to a facility that's a 1 or 2-star rating.
Right.
That's just not going to happen.
They have options.
Exactly. So why aren't you going to go for the best?
Mm-hmm.
And if you want the best client because you're providing the best service, you want to refer to the best people or get referrals from the best people.
Yep.
And that makes the rating and all sorts of other compliance issues so important.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really great perspective, and I think that not everybody has that amount of dynamism in their business, where if I'm higher quality, I get so much more business or so much better paying employees or referrals and patients. But it starts to become a flywheel, right? Like if you can have the right quality, you can provide good care, or people notice that, more people who are willing to pay get referred into it, and then you have more of that money to invest in employees and invest in standard operating procedures. And I think that this, I obviously come at this from kind of a compliance and ethics standpoint, but when you get that culture right, when you get the right things implemented in your business and in the things that you're working on, then it kind of starts this virtuous cycle where everything starts working better.
Exactly. And then, from like the perspective of my clients, the home health people, the hospice people, the home care, it starts in the beginning, in the very beginning, at the core function. Who are you hiring?
Yep.
How well trained are your coordinators? How well trained are your caregivers? When they're coming in, you have to set the expectations and just move on. And it's all part of, it's all this big web, where
and it's all interrelated, right?
Yeah, it really is. You've got your business development people going out there. Your recruiters got to put the right message out. Your coordinators, you have to eliminate that click mentality in your office. All of it has to kind of work together. Quality assurance and the compliance and the paperwork and everything's got to be just mesh.
Yep.
And once it does, you eliminate certain things. One, you eliminate price, or your price becomes irrelevant.
Okay.
Your need for advertising diminishes
Mm.
because you build that reputation. And this works regardless whether you're a home care agency, you're an assisted living, a skilled nursing facility. All of this goes into place, and that word of mouth, which is actually one of the biggest growers for any business anyway.
Yeah.
And it all comes into place.
Yeah, it's cool how when you get that working, those things all feed off of each other, right? You get the right
Yeah.
people, they do the right stuff. It's not as hard to market and all of that. And I think that a lot of, I think that when we, in our profession as ethics and compliance professionals, understand the true impact of what we're doing, that when
Right.
you do this stuff right, it's not just we're managing risk, but it helps the whole organization. It helps HR in recruiting. It helps marketing in, being able to attract business and all of that. I think we start to realize the true power of the impact that we have. Building a culture that's ethical can really transform the entire business. So
Yeah.
let's dig into that a little bit. You started in recruiting. A lot of people in our market are, related to or a dotted line to, or at least care about the pipeline of people who come in, right? Like even if you're just
Right.
in compliance and ethics, all these new people coming in are going to be the people taking actions that you care about. So talk to me a little bit about how important recruiting is in your space and what perspective you either had on that when you were doing that full time, or how you advise people around that now.
Well, one of the big things that I learned when I started out being a recruiter is that it doesn't really matter how many people you get in your door. Okay.
Okay.
What matters is retention and how long can you keep them.
Ah.
See, here's a couple of really interesting statistics. When we're looking at, for example, home health, home care, and hospice, all right, all these field people,
Mm-hmm.
your average caregiver, and this applies for a lot of nurses also, will stay with you on average if you're doing a one-to-one
Mm-hmm.
or anywhere from 3 to 5 clients. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
It's a very small
That's
number.
fast. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the turnaround is really high.
Mm-hmm.
So now if you're doing, let's say, for example, home health or home care, where you're taking care of an individual elderly person or infirm individual for any extended period of time, you're looking at a national average of about 120 days of service. And in the private pay space at $25 an hour, you're looking at about $11,000 revenue per client.
Over that
So if
120 days.
over that 120
Got
days.
it.
It's an average,
Sure.
where some
Yeah.
are much higher, some are
Of
much
course.
lower. Okay. So now if you're taking a caregiver and you're bringing her on, all right, and you're only holding on to her for about 3 clients, that means you're generating your return per caregiver is only about $33,000. And if you're looking at a 40 to 50% gross margin, which is what you're paying your caregiver,
Mm-hmm.
as much as 60%, plus all your startup costs with the nurse and everything else, you're really only going to net about 1 to 3% per caregiver over the course of a year.
Hmm.
So why aren't you going to focus your attentions on building a solid retention strategy?
Mm-hmm.
And let's hold on to that caregiver instead of 3 to 5 clients. Let's hold on to her for 3 to 5 years.
Right.
50% of all field employees in this space, whether it be a nurse, a caregiver, CNA, regardless, will quit within 30 days of starting with you.
Wow.
Think about this. 70% will quit within 90 days.
Okay. That's how you get to that average, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So now if we're looking at this over the course of a year, it's an average cost to recruit and retain an employee is about $2,500 per employee.
Hmm.
So if you have a large organization that you're filtering through 100 new caregivers every year, that means you're hiring 100 are leaving, you have to hire another 100.
Mm-hmm.
You're spending $50,000 a year because you didn't want to spend $10,000 a year to do a retention strategy.
Okay.
You see?
Yeah. It's
So
super powerful.
these are all things that it blows my mind. And it's one of the first things that I originally learned because fortunately, the company that I worked for, back when I was 15, they were so intently focused on retention.
Oh.
they were servicing about 250 clients at any given moment and never had a caregiver shortage.
Wow. Well,
You
that
know,
that must be nice.
yeah. Well, it's because if you have a place that people want to work for you, you're not gonna run into those problems. And if you have a solid retention strategy as opposed to a recruitment strategy, you're also never going to run into recruitment.
Yeah.
You're not going to have the problem if people are beating down your door to work for you. You're not going to pay that $500 to $2,500 sign-on bonus that people are
Mm,
now. I see the advertisements everywhere. You're not going to have that because people want to work for you.
yeah.
You're taking away that uncertainty. And all of this goes into play. Again, it all ties together. You have a solid compliance, you have solid retention, solid recruitment, you have a stable, healthy, and valuable place to work. You've fixed your recruitment problem.
Mm,
You've fixed your profitability. And also you're building a solid reputation where other facilities, other referral partners are interested in what you're doing and they feel safe and they putting their own name and reputation on the line to send you business.
okay.
Okay. So
Yeah.
all of this ties together. So let's meld both worlds here for a moment.
Sure.
All right. If I have XYZ skilled nursing, all right, I am a subacute facility.
Okay.
My feeder is the hospital down the street. If I have a solid retention plan and I have caregivers and everybody that really enjoys working for me,
Hmm.
they're doing everything right. I have solid compliance in place. I have my high 5-star rating.
Hmm.
All of this is coming in. And another facility opens up down the street. That hospital is still going to continue to push me
Hmm.
and maintain my census because those many don't understand that 70% is the magic number for most of these facilities to maintain profitability. Their daily census has to be around 70%.
Hmm.
And if we're talking about an average of 109 beds in a skilled nursing facility nationally,
Hmm.
that's a high number. You're
Yeah.
looking at almost 80 beds have to be filled every single day
Right. On average.
on average.
Yeah. And there's
Yeah.
going to be
So
some turnover. If someone leaves, it's going to be a few days before it fills up or whatever.
exactly.
Yeah.
So now if we're looking at, let's say a 100 bed facility that's doing about 12,000 patient days per year, that's a significant amount of turnaround. So why do we want the impact of our staffing, of our lack of staffing, or improperly trained staff because we have a high turnaround, affecting our ability to attract clients, to attract referral partners, and to reduce potentially our rating and other things because they're not doing the job right and we can't keep up with the training fast enough.
That's great. I really love this perspective because I think anyone who's listening can probably kind of catch any one of these points, right? Would you
Yeah,
rather retain people or turn them over? Sure, retain them. Do you
of
want to
course.
have high quality or low quality? Sure, high quality. But you have this perspective, Julio, because you're operating at that top level of the executive or the owner or whoever's launching
Right.
this thing, and you're like, well, all these things tie together. And I think there's a lot of power for us to understand, hey, you know what? I can't, I'm not in marketing. I'm not, necessarily in quality. I have this thing, but here's how I affect this whole network. And it becomes really
Right.
powerful to have the conversation of, hey, I'm trying to launch this program. This is going to help retention. I'm trying to launch this program. This is going to help quality. This is going to help our star rating or whatever it is. And you
Exactly.
can build a stronger case for, hey, I need these tools. I need this budget. I need this, activity in my division because it's not just about me, it's about everybody. And
Exactly.
I think you're helping us kind of see all the interconnected, I think you called it a web, the interconnected action and engagement that all this gets, which I think is really helpful to know kind of that this is a full umbrella.
Yeah. Yeah. It's think of it as almost like a bar stool,
Okay.
right? You have your compliance piece that your business rests on.
Sure.
You have recruitment and retention, which is
Right.
another piece. And then your final piece is your business development and marketing.
Okay.
If all of these are not stable, if what
Right.
happens to a bar stool,
Yeah.
you cut one of the legs off, it's going to tip over.
Sure.
And it's the same thing's going to happen to your business. If you don't have the right strategies, the right plans, the right processes in place, And all of this just does, if it's not interconnected properly,
Mm-hmm.
something is going to tip over. And if you're leaning more towards marketing, but you don't have the recruitment, then your marketing is going to suffer.
Right.
If you're leaning towards retention, but you're out of compliance when the state comes or the federal government comes and inspects, you're going to be shut down or you're going to be penalized.
Right.
I was actually called in not too long ago to visit some clients out in Ohio that had this exact problem. Their compliance was a little bit out of whack. Their client charts, they weren't doing things the way they were supposed to be. That's not really my specialty.
Sure.
So we had to, call in for outside help to really get somebody to look at it. But it affected everything. The lack of compliance was actually a direct result of a poor recruitment and retention strategy.
Wow.
And their business was suffering. They had lost almost 60% of their referral base because of the bad reputation built around this.
Wow.
Now, thankfully, senior care space and just healthcare in general, it's probably one of the most forgiving businesses in the long term.
Okay.
If you made a mistake today, people understand mistakes will happen. It's how you correct them.
Okay.
That's going to make or break your business.
I see.
And that's just my experience. I've seen people coming back from an accident where a client or a patient has passed away from an error. I've seen companies come back from that. It's hard, very time consuming, but it's doable.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's impossible to do if you're not willing to go out and actively seek help, seek the professionals like you, like me, to put it in. It's actually a big part of my company motto and everything. Like, my company's just built around it. It's prepare, plan, and rebuild.
Okay.
That's the structure of my company.
Cool.
Because you got to prepare those strategies, plan your steps, and rebuild your processes in order to have a successful business.
Yeah, and I imagine that rebuild is kind of what we call continuous improvement of, it's so great. We got up to 4 stars. Well, rebuild this thing because you're going to need a different system or a different capacities in these different areas. You're going to need longer legs on each leg of the stool to kind of get to 5 stars or whatever it is.
Exactly.
Cool. That's so helpful. And I love that you brought up that concept of their compliance was out of whack, and it was, contributed to, if not primarily driven by, a bad recruitment strategy, and they didn't have the right plan in place and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. That whole onboarding and everything for both clients and caregivers is very important. And it ties so much into what, like, for example, like what you do.
Yeah.
That compliance piece. It's all interconnected.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to.
So I think you brought up this concept of retention, which is so important, right? You and I both know, and you walked us through, I think, really deftly the way that these links all link together to form a chain here. But talk to me a little bit about what goes into a retention strategy, because we talk to people in our market who are trying to figure this out, or just someone I know on LinkedIn, and they know that that's part of the thing that they need to solve to get there. And we talk about, well, people should have a speak up culture. They should have psychological safety. They should not be, getting threatened by their manager. And then we also do stuff around exit interviews to uncover that stuff. But we're usually kind of on the back end trying to, uncover that information. You're kind of on the front end launching a program and saying, hey, here's what you need to do to build retention. So talk to me a little bit about how you see the ideal of that, or how you give people guidance to build strength in that area.
Well, I think number one, it doesn't matter what type of senior care business you have. I don't care if you're a hospital. I don't care if you're a skilled nursing facility, home health, hospice. It all starts the minute a potential caregiver walks through your door.
Okay. Before they're even hired, you're saying?
Before they're even hired, your staff, whoever it is that's coordinating your services, your floor managers, all of these people, they have to be aware of what are the expectations of the company. What is expected of them, and what are they supposed to expect from the caregiver? Make this clear. One of the strategies that I actually teach my in-home care clients is they have a board similar to this, a big foam board. Okay. Put your rules. What are your basic expectations on one of these boards, and put it right in the room where they're filling out the application.
Okay. Love it.
As soon as you walk in, have your 10 to 15 items that are not forgivable. no cell phones on duty. If you're on time, you're late. Things like that.
Right.
Just make it real clear. This way, no one can ever say, I was never told.
Mm-hmm.
That is the best cop out to begin with. Okay. IDs must be worn at all times. Uniform must be clean and neat.
Right.
This is your uniform. Like, if the uniform's a scrub top and a pair of jeans, great.
Right.
But make it clear.
Yeah.
You don't,
And you just make it a standard, right? You're like, well,
right.
you know what? In our house, we brush our teeth and we wash our hands. Like, it's just
Right.
standard.
And that's what it is. Okay. And that's where it begins. Then moving on from there, or in tandem to that, more would be more appropriate.
Okay.
Make sure that your internal office, the management team, the direct supervisors, your coordinators, everybody involved, your floor nurses, whoever it is, make sure that they understand that management will have a zero tolerance for clicks.
Okay.
There should be no favoritism in the office.
Got it.
If the standard applies to you, it applies to the lowest man on the totem pole, and it applies to the owners.
Mm-hmm.
And there should be clear accountability set up from the bottom up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The same equal amount of accountability that there is for that lowest level employee needs to be set for the highest level employee. And it should be known that, everyone's going to have the same consequence. Okay. And then, now that we've gone through the uncomfortable part, you have to set up the fun stuff.
Okay.
If you have a good employee, this is the digital age. We have social media.
Right.
That is the most inexpensive method of promoting a solid plan for retention that you have. It's one of the greatest tools. If I work for you and you think I'm a great employee, let's go on Facebook and let's put it on there.
Okay.
Hey, Julio did a fantastic job. He has not had any call outs this month.
Mm-hmm.
Clients love him. He's doing great. Let's recognize that. Pat on the back. Attaboy. Thank you for everything you've done. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
What did it cost you?
It's free. Recognition is free. Treating someone like a human and recognizing that they made a good contribution, it's free. You don't have to buy them a trip to Hawaii.
Exactly. And then, it's a concept that's a concept that the military is used to be. In fact, today we have the kinder, gentler military. Everybody gets an award. But back when I was in the Army, back in the 90s, that was something that was very heavily pushed. You praise in public, you punish in private.
Sure. And
that is a concept that I think as a society we are forgetting in the workplace. If people need recognition, people need that attaboy. All right. If you're not recognizing people, you're missing some of the key elements of belonging. People need to feel protected. People need to feel safe. People need to feel like they are part of the in-group, not the out-group.
Okay.
All right. So, and this is where it all kind of ties in. Here we are. As soon as I walk in, I feel protected because there are set rules in place, and it has been made abundantly clear that the rules apply to me and they apply to the inter-office staff.
Right.
Okay. Once I'm working for you, I see that there are no clicks. I have equal opportunity to get that position that pays a little bit more than somebody who's been in the office for 10 years.
Sure.
Okay. So there's room for improvement. There's room for advancement, and it's equal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, if I recognize that when people do something right, they are being praised for it.
Okay.
So it's going to make me want to do right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Social media, not to plug any particular service, but there's a lot of free email services. MailChimp is one of them.
Sure.
I just use them.
Yeah.
As
Constant Contact, HubSpot, whatever.
Yeah. They send out an email list to all of your staff. Hey, this person did something fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Hey, so-and-so caught this compliance issue that potentially saved our company some money. Why not put this all together, and you've got yourselves the beginnings of a solid retention plan.
Wow.
And just as an added tip here for anyone watching this,
pay attention, guys. Added tip. This one's free.
This one's free. All right. Don't give cash to your employees
Okay.
as bonuses. It's a trick I learned many years ago where if I tell you, hey, here's $100, thanks for doing such a great job.
Mm-hmm.
Before I've handed you that $100, you've spent it.
Yep.
In your head, I've got to pay this bill, I've got to pay that bill. That right there, by the time I put the money in your hand or put it in your paycheck and everything else, you've already spent it mentally and it has lost any and all value.
Yeah.
Instead, what I should do and what I recommend is either use an app that'll let you send the money instantly, like here's $100, here you go, thanks. It's instantly yours. You have not had plan or time to think about other ways you're going to spend that money.
Okay.
Or, which is another one this is the one I highly recommend. Tell your employee if when they win, you're either going to give them a gift card to a supermarket and buy them $100 worth of groceries.
Okay.
Or you're going to tell them, hey, bring me your cell phone bill. Or here's a gas card. See, now instead of giving them something that they've already spent before they've even gotten it in their hand, you've resolved the problem for them.
Yeah.
Okay. And psychologically, that has such a deep impact, and that has so much more meaning and gratitude for the employee that they will appreciate that a whole lot more than even $1,000 bonus.
Yeah. Well, it's cool because what you're talking about, there's a lot of psychology in that, right? When you do I'm going to give you some money, it becomes very transactional. And like, how often do you do that with your brother or with your best friend or with your neighbor that you're tightest with? Usually we're doing some other type of exchange of like, hey, why don't you drop the kids off? I'll watch them for you. Or let me bring dinner by while, your wife is sick or whatever it is. And you're helping them solve a problem, and it builds community, right? It builds these bonds between people, because what do you do that I'm going to give you money for? That's when, someone sends you an invoice, Verizon sends you an invoice and you're like, I got to pay this. All right, I better send them some money. And that becomes this transactional thing of like, okay, well, you better deliver on this because we have a contract. And there's a different, it's different when it's a social contract where we have a relationship, we're a community, we have this bond that's person to person instead of wallet to wallet. And you can build a lot of, you can do a lot of things there. And I love the frame that you brought into this of you're solving a problem for them, right? You're helping them rather than giving them something and saying, go help yourself. You're like, all right, let me take care of that for you. I think it's a really powerful frame, and it changes, it changes the dynamic of the relationship, like, if you're out of town and your friend cuts your lawn or brings your trash inside, and then you're like, all right, here's $5. Like, all right, we're clean. I don't owe you anything. That's different from like, hey man, I owe you one. That was awesome. Thanks for helping me out. Like, I'll get you back next time.
Right. And all of this comes into, that whole concept of, it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Okay. This is what it's all framed around. What do we need as people? And it's the same thing when you're building a recruiting campaign. What are the needs of your potential employees?
Okay.
What do they need? They need stability. I mean, right now, right now we're at a time where most states, at least for the next few weeks still, and it's been going on now for almost a year, they're giving out extra unemployment. So at $300, in some of the lowest states, you're still making about $500 a week.
Okay.
So New Jersey is one of the higher paying states. That's kind of where I am now.
Okay.
So you're looking at almost $1,100. I think it's $1,050 a week is maximum unemployment.
Okay.
So if you are a facility that's hiring home health aides, nurses, CNAs, that's what you're competing with first and foremost. If I sit at home and keep claiming unemployment, I will make $650, $700 a week. Why am I going to give that up for an uncertainty to where, forget the dollars per hour, where you're not even going to guarantee me 30 or 40 hours a week, which is much more valuable to me than $20 an hour. See, this is where that minimum wage argument comes into play.
Sure.
Is it really the living wage that's a problem, or is it the stability of work availability?
Well, where is that on Maslow?
Well, that falls under when we're talking about the hierarchy of needs, it has to do with being able to provide some of the most basic needs for yourself.
Yeah.
Self-sustaining.
Yeah.
All right, it's all like one of the base needs that we have.
Hmm.
How are you going to feed, clothe, and house yourself?
Right. It's basic.
So if it's not so much, it doesn't make a difference if you're paying the caregiver, $10 or $12 an hour, or if you're paying them $25, $30 an hour. Because what's the difference between paying somebody $30 an hour but only giving them 10 hours a week
Right.
of work? Or if I can give you $15 an hour or $12 or whatever it is, but I'm guaranteeing you 40,
Right.
you're going to have a much more stable environment with a fixed work schedule than you are with a higher dollar per hour,
Right.
because there's too much flux, and it's about predictability, it's about stability. Then you bring in these other factors about the recognition and resolving the problems as opposed to paying a bonus.
Right.
And what you've done is you've created that sense of unity and family.
Hmm.
The protection, that's where the policies come in, and all
Yes.
of this, you're building this perfect storm to where you'll not only have a solid retention plan in place, but you're building cheerleaders for yourself.
Mm.
Okay, and these cheerleaders will go out and they'll create, they'll make more noise for you
Yep.
than anything else.
And you
And
can't
and
buy
that's
it.
the problem. You
You
can't. You
can't buy it
can't
with
pay
a
for
Google
it.
ad.
That this is the thing, an unhappy employee is up to 5 times more likely to be vocal about why they are unhappy than a happy employee is to make noise about why they are happy.
Hmm.
And in today's age where we live in a world of noise, how
Hmm.
do you drown out the negativity to attract more people? Well, you
Yep.
build solid retention plans and create these cheerleaders for yourself.
Awesome. I love it, man. Um, yeah, and I appreciate you walking us through that Maslow's hierarchy. I think, a lot of people are probably have a cursory familiarity with it or maybe have heard of it, but if you think through that in the context of your employees and your retention plan and figure out where can I have an impact, right? Like, policies
Right.
are protection. Your pay rate times guaranteed hours is your basic provision, and then can I move you up that hierarchy and give you some of that, that social proof and that self-actualization that comes from giving you opportunity and giving you that recognition. And
Right.
you can start building through that to say, okay, well, we're good with these first two layers, but to really retain the best people, we got to get some more of this, and you can build up there.
Exactly. And that's what it really, again, it all comes down to the same basic set of stuff.
Yeah.
And it all ties together, all every bit of it.
Yeah.
Because once again, if you don't have the right policies and procedures and compliance in place, you're never going to be able to recruit, you're never going to be able to get clients. You're not going to, it's just going to tip over one way or the other.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and it's all kind of the same basic stuff because this is all just people. Whether you're
Mm-hmm.
marketing or recruiting or
Yep.
managing or setting policies, is just people making decisions, and all
Right.
of these algorithms running through our head and our heart of what am I going to do next, whether it's
Right.
referring somebody or taking a job or whatever it is. So
Right.
as we're getting toward kind of wrap up time, you've launched something pretty exciting.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is helping people kind of think through how they manage and plan for their growth. So tell us a little bit about that, and then if you have any other parting thoughts, lay it on me.
Well, yeah, if you go to my website, thebrionesgroup.com, you can actually see a replay of a webinar where I talk about all of this recruitment strategy.
Cool.
All right, and there's a free download on there on some basic tips on how to build your own recruiting strategy in there. All right, but as to what you're saying, we just launched a business development kit. All right, starter kit. So whether you're hiring a new marketer and business development person, or you're in business for one, you're just trying to get to that point where how do I grow? How do I move along? We have this kit. It includes coaching, a coaching session to walk you through it, and it has a lot of different stuff like how do you calculate commissions? That's probably one of the biggest questions that I get.
Hmm.
What should count towards it? How do I prospect a new facility? How do I decide whether a place is worth marketing to? Hey, I just spent $10,000 on a marketing campaign over the last 6 months. Was it worthwhile? How do you know? Well, I
Mm-hmm.
have all of these built-in calculators in there, a marketing ROI calculator that's built around client lifetime value, prospecting workbook, which includes, things like projected revenue from any particular source. And it is geared towards the private in-home care space.
Sure.
Okay. So thanks for the plug. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you got it, man. Hey, you know what? I mean, this is part of the spirit of the ethics experts, right? We're putting stuff out. We're sharing experts like you because we want to help people, make their lives better so they can make their workplace better. And, we can all live in a world that has better workplaces. So, I love that you're putting it out there. If, anyone wants to hear a really long rant session from me or hear me get on a soapbox, ask me about, what a trap it is getting involved with, some marketing agencies that don't actually know what they're doing, and they're going to sell you a bill of goods and say, yeah, we'll do something. You won't really be able to tell, but we will do a bunch of work. There are a lot of pitfalls in that. And Julio, I love that you're bringing this up to help people kind of wade into this swamp with hopefully not getting as messy. So yeah, happy to plug it. You guys should go check it out, especially if you're in the home care space and care about private practice or private pay. It's whether you're doing something or launching something or just trying to get in that rebuild and continuous improvement phase. There are a lot of pitfalls, a lot of ways to go wrong, and a bunch of people who are happy to sell you hours or ebooks or ads or some strategic consulting that are going to go nowhere. So watch out for it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of my bigger pet peeves as well.
Okay,
definitely can go off on how 10,000 impressions is worth, $500.
Yeah. Well, that's 20,000 eyeballs.
Yeah. But it doesn't bring you a single paying client.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I guess we're going to do a 4-hour episode follow-up where we're going to rant about bad marketing, getting sold a bill of goods.
Yes. All right.
So anything you want to leave us with other than that?
No. That's pretty much it. You can get all the information about my company, upcoming events, live events, things like that. It's all there on my website, and it's thebrionesgroup.com. And other than that, thanks again. This was a blast.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. I love the way that throughout this episode you integrated these different things, compliance and policies and recruitment and retention and the growth of the business and the care that's being provided to clients or whatever industry you're in. When you hear that, that means quality, the quality of your service, the consistency of your delivery. All of that is tied together. And I think, for people front and center in the ethics profession, when we understand the massive impact that we can have on all of those things, all of the other legs of the stool, it can help us all get better, and it can help us as ethics experts really push into that conversation of, hey, I'm going to help out with this thing, and it's going to have positive benefits to a bunch of other people. And Julio, I think you did a great job illustrating how these different things that we're doing, it's not a silo. That leg doesn't stand on its own. It's part of the whole stool. Please, look up Julio. Check out the brionesgroup.com and stay tuned for the next episode of The Ethics Experts. Thanks so much for joining us. We hope you got something valuable from this, and we hope that your participation and joining us in listening to The Ethics Experts can help you make your world a better workplace.